Good afternoon, my loves. Good afternoon. It's Namaste Moore, your feminine alchemist and founder of the School of Feminine Transformation. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It's been a little while. I've been traveling and I'm really happy to be here and be back with all of you. And today, I just wanted to come on live and talk to you ladies a little bit about why women step away from their femininity. So if you know any women, I invite you to share this live stream with them because it's really important to understand what the things are that cause us to step away from that which fuels us, that which sources us, that which is powerful and present in our lives. So I'll just give you ladies a few minutes to get in here, a few minutes to share with your friends, family, and loved ones and your sister circles. Welcome, Monique. Welcome, gorgeous. How are you? So what we're going to talk about today is I did some research and I talked to some women. So this is not just something that I just kind of pulled out of my head or kind of sat around. Thank you, gorgeous. It's not something that I just made up, like these are the 10 reasons I think women step away from their femininity. This is actually based on the reasons that women told me from their own hearts, minds, and souls, unprompted, meaning that I didn't give them like a list and say, pick one of these, what it was that caused them to step away from their femininity. And so what I did was, after I finished gathering all of that data, I looked at the reasons that showed up. Good afternoon, Dax. I looked at the reasons that showed up, and then I organized them by how often that particular reason was given. In other words, how many women listed that as one of their reasons. And so I have the top 10, top 10 reasons that women step away from their femininity, why we stop, why we think we need to be something else or do something else. And so I'm only going to cover one today. I think I'm going to do one a day or maybe one or two a day. And do it in that way. So the number 10 reason, so this reason was listed quite a number of times, but the least amount of times from everyone. Good morning or good afternoon, Makisha. This was listed. Okay, so this was the 10th reason that women listed, the 10th most frequent reason why they listed that they step away from their femininity. And it is, drum roll please, anger. Now, I was a little surprised that anger wasn't higher on the list, that more women didn't list anger. A fair amount of women obviously listed anger. We ended up with about 20 or 30 reasons, so it's still in the top 10, but at the same time, it wasn't number 2 or 3. I was actually a little surprised at what number 2 and 3 were. But anger is, by most women, most of the women that participated in this little thing that I did, said that that's one of the reasons why they step away from femininity, why they end up not embodying their femininity, why they feel they can't be feminine, what it is that takes them away from living and being feminine. Now, it may not be for some of these women, it meant this is why I don't live within my feminine at all. And for some of the women, it meant when I get angry, I tend to respond by taking on more masculine characteristics or attempting to have more masculine energy or access more masculine energy. So it could take place in either form. Here's what's interesting about anger, what I found fascinating about that, is because today in our culture, there are a lot of things that we are constantly shown to elicit an angry response. Anger is, for many people, how you show that you care, is by becoming angry. I've had friends and even loved ones get frustrated with me because something was going on and I wasn't angry enough for them. And so they would say, oh, you don't care. If you cared, you'd be more angry. But the reality is that anger is not a bad thing. It can actually be a beneficial thing, but only if we are utilizing it correctly. Okay? So there are basically three ways that anger usually shows up for us. One is that we can experience anger and suppress it. Right? And this gets a lot of press. We know, we've heard about it. Don't suppress your anger. So don't suppress your anger. Don't suppress your anger. And the reason why is because suppressed anger leads to a lot of heart issues and high blood pressure and stress and adrenal burnout and all of these things that most of us already know about, right? But here's the interesting thing. Expressed anger leads to the same results physiologically, and often emotionally too. In other words, while we have been taught not to suppress our anger, studies have also shown that when we express it by I'm growling and roaring and don't you tell me and getting in people's faces, it still is connected to an increase in heart disease and cardiovascular issues, in high blood pressure, in adrenal burnout, and in all of those not so beneficial or not at all beneficial physiologic effects, as well as emotional turmoil and issues. So we tend to, back in like the 60s and even maybe the 50s, a lot of women would have suppressed their anger. And this is what you hear spoken of the most often is that, women were taught that we can't be angry, right? Men can be angry, but women aren't allowed to be angry. And men aren't allowed to be sad. And while that has shifted, what is now showing up currently in the social dialogue is a lot of expressing, I need to let people know how mad I am. I am woman, hear me roar, and da 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 da. I'm a voice, I'm here. You cannot silence me. That kind of energy, but it still leads to the same negative effects in women. And we see it because a lot of times when women are angry, they say, I don't know how to be feminine, or I step away from my feminine when I'm angry. And since our femininity, for those of us who have embodied as feminine essence, our femininity is the space of our nurturing and our source. It is the space of our power and our pleasure and our potency. So anything that causes us to step away from our femininity, anything that causes us to feel like we can't stay feminine, is not of benefit to us. But if you remember, just a few minutes ago, I said anger is not always bad. So how does that work? What's left? If you're not repressing anger and you also don't want to express it, push it out, what's left for you to do with it? Just feel it. Just feel it. Anger is an emotion, okay? And it is a specific kind of emotion. It used to be always spoken of as being a secondary emotion. Some people say it's not. Some people say it is. But by and large, hey, Katie, thank you. By and large, what they have found is that anger must be learned. Unlike any other emotions we innately feel. So anger is a secondary emotion because we must learn how to be angry. We don't come here just knowing how to do that. Now, those of you who have children, little kids may be like, nah, because my kids know how to be angry. They learned it. Okay? So here it is. When we are experiencing anger, that emotion of anger will only last for a few seconds unless we try to stuff it down. Okay, so we're suppressing it. Or it is being compelled in us, meaning something external to us is trying to or seeking to, or we are deciding to create a story that reestablishes it or recreates the anger in us. Think about that for a moment. Think about the last time you were angry. And think about, was there a story that you started telling yourself? And a story usually starts like this. I'm angry because any human would be. Of course, that would make me, let me go and ask other people, would you be mad if, right? All of those things are ways of us creating more and more story around our anger. When it is, that is compelling it from the inside. When it's compelled from the outside is when we are bombarded with visualizations and stories of inequities or bad things or tragedies and things of that nature that we feel helpless to change. It's a very specific kind of thing that usually elicits anger versus compassion. We usually receive compassion where we are inspired towards compassion when we see things, and then there's a call to action like, and this is how you can help. Okay? But we usually go to anger when something is shown to us and it is repeatedly shown to us, and the way it is shown to us is something that is too big for us to change. And so we will tend to go towards anger. Okay, so that is usually how anger is compelled externally. The reason I'm telling you this, my loves, is because when you understand that anger is something that is only there, and here's the important part, it only comes so that we can make a choice. Then we can begin to utilize it as the tool that it is meant to be. In other words, if something happens and I experience, I am angry right now. I don't like that. Okay? And there's a spectrum, right? From irritation and annoyance to outright rage. There's a huge spectrum there. When you experience that, if you give yourself a moment and just kind of soften into it, and soft muses, you know that I've taught many times about how to not offer resistance in the body. Okay? And what are some of the tools that you can use to release that? What you will find is that anger will pass. And what will remain is the opportunity or the invitation of change. What kind of change? I don't know. Depends on the situation. It might be, I need to stop doing this. It might be, I need to start doing that. It might be, and more often, most often, it is a simple change of mind and perspective that we are being invited to do. But if we stay in the anger, we don't get there. Good afternoon, Jamila. We don't get there. We don't get to this is inviting me to change my mind, to have a radical shift in my being. This is inviting me to see things differently. This is inviting me to experience my world differently. Maybe this is inviting me to do some more research and say, oh, if that's making me angry, maybe I should see, is there another way I can see it? Is there something I don't know? What don't I know about this situation? Maybe it's inviting me to rest. Maybe it's inviting me to understand that it's not my job to fix everything and everyone, because maybe nothing needs fixing. Maybe my anger is my feeling that something needs to be shifted that doesn't really need to be shifted. And some of these things actually have some overlap with the 9th reason why women step away from femininity, which is what I'm going to talk about tomorrow. So I don't want to get into that too deeply. But anger is always there for us to feel it, acknowledge it, notice it, so we can see after we bow to that guardian, then the guardian will step aside and let us see what's behind it. What is the invitation? What is the feeling that we don't want to feel? Sometimes the feeling is simple disappointment, right? If you've ever played with your anger before, if you really sit with it and say, well, what's under here? A lot of times it's just disappointment. I'm disappointed. But it's easier to feel angry because disappointment makes us feel small, and a lot of times makes us feel like little girls. Whereas anger makes us feel big and And so we will tend to prefer anger over disappointment. Now, when women are saying that their anger is causing them to step away from their femininity, and if you feel that way, it is a sign that you are either feeling the need to suppress your anger or you are expressing it. Okay, you feel like you must express it. I must get it out. I must do something. And that's what's causing that separation between you and your femininity. Okay, so you can be feminine and have moments of anger. Have moments of anger, because it really only lasts a moment unless you recreate it. It really does. It'll be gone in under 2 minutes unless you recreate it. If you recreate it by creating a story about it and why and justifying and this reason and that reason, then it just gets bigger and you just keep recreating it because you are such an amazing creatrix, right? So when you are willing to just say, wow, yeah, that that really is making me angry. I'm angry about that. And muses, you know where to go and you know how to breathe, right? Then what will come to you is what's behind it. And that's where your potency is. That's where it may be tears, it may be sadness, it may be confusion, it may be, a feeling of things are changing and I don't really like it. But if you notice everything that I'm saying, there's no story attached to any of it. It just is. Okay? So there's no reason for anger to make you step away from your femininity. If anger is one of the reasons why you find yourself stepping away from your femininity, I want to invite you to join the School of Feminine Transformation, where you will learn wonderful tools and resources that will help you become whole and embody as completely feminine in every facet of your being. I love your face.